Welcome. It's Sam and Chris, another edition of the Crimson Creed podcast. Chris, how are you doing this fine evening?
I'm not too bad. Ready to watch OU go up against a quality opponent like SMU, who next year will be in the ACC. Uh, I'm ready. Also, really hoping to see Texas lose. But yeah, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Speaking of losing, just watched the Kansas City Chiefs, defending Super Bowl champions, lose at the hands of not just the Detroit Lions, but off the hands of star wide receiver Kadarius Toney.
It's
Um,
funny you call him a star.
yeah, somebody who, if it was anybody else, would probably be looking for a job come Tuesday, but I think we'll probably be okay as the week goes on. He'll probably get another couple cracks at it, as long as he doesn't do this two or three more times. Um, the Arkansas State game last Saturday. We're almost a week removed from it now, and 73 to nothing. Nothing to sneeze at. It's our largest margin of victory ever in a season opening game, which is crazy. I guess really in 106 years, I should say, because I guess we did one better in 1917. Tell me about your thoughts on the game. What stuck out to you that was really good, and where do you see the most opportunities for us as we move into a face-off with SMU?
You know, one of the things that I noticed, and it was evident very early on, is that we're we're not just focusing on one side of the ball. We're not just focusing on offense. We're not just focusing on defense. We're focusing on all aspects. Our first drive of the game, 5 plays, 70 yards, touchdown. Our first defensive drive of the game, 3 and out, allowing only 4 yards. Those 4 yards came on one play, a pass out to the left side, and Dasan McCullough absolutely just blew up the play. He made a nice one-on-one tackle on the open field, did a great job. And first punt of the game, what happens? Gavin Freeman, number 82, takes it 82 yards for a touchdown. We could not have scripted a better start on all three parts of the game. So I think we did really well there. I think we got good pressure after the quarterback. There have been a lot of people who have been complaining about the lack of sacks and all that. But if you go back and watch the game film, you'll notice two things. A, the quarterback is only holding on to the ball for maybe a second or two. He's getting rid of it quick, quick, quick. It's hard to get a quarterback in 2 seconds. And on top of that, when he was holding on to it for longer, they had 8 people back there blocking for him. When you're only rushing 5 people, it's hard to get through a wall of 8, even if it's just Arkansas State. But even with all that, we were getting good pressure on the quarterback. Late in the game, I know he was banged up for a lot of it, so he didn't get too much play time. But PJ Adebawara, he when he was out there, he would just fly right past the line. We had Jordan Kelly making an amazing play to blow up a run right before a missed field goal. We got really good pressure. So, and also Dylan Gabriel was playing like he's trying to keep his starting job and not lose it to a 5-star quarterback. I was impressed by Jackson Arnold. It was just a really good effort. What I want to see us do better though is the run game. We had a nice run attack, but it was just that. It was just nice. When you're going up against a team like Arkansas State, you need to average a little bit more than 4 yards a carry, especially with the running back room as stacked as we have. I mean, Javante Barnes was our lead runner. He had 13 carries for 49 yards. Now, granted, we might have just been kind of limiting how we were doing things, but the main thing I'm going to be looking to see if we can improve, at least on the offensive side of the ball, is running the ball. I want us to just ram it down their throats. I want us to just pound the rock and dominate the line of scrimmage. And that starts with the offensive line. What about you? What were some of your thoughts?
Well, first off, I think our running attack was I thought it was really good. I think in a season opener against an opponent like Arkansas State, um, a team like LSU or Florida State, when you're playing a top 10 team, you don't have the luxury of keeping things vanilla in that first game. You got to bring your A game. when you're playing Arkansas State, everything's really pretty. You're not going for the home run hitters every play. You're playing vanilla football, and we put up 73 points, held them to nothing playing vanilla football. Overall, I was real happy with the rushing attack. I think the thing that really stuck out to me is the development of Jaquaize Petaway. 9 receptions he had in this game for 56 yards. He had as many receptions as Andrell Anthony, Jaden Gibson, and Drake Stoops combined. That's really something to me to see him kind of coming onto the scene a little bit, maybe making a case alongside Drake and Andrell Anthony as the number one guy, right? Making himself a top target. Dillon Gabriel, you mentioned. I don't know that he's necessarily playing for his job right now. I think he's pretty well cemented in there, absent an injury. But little competition never hurts anybody. Definitely can always make them better. On the defensive side of it, Peyton Bowen really stuck out to me as well, pulling in 3 tackles in that game. He was also in on the play, I think, with Kenai Walker, where we got the strip and recovered the fumble. So that was cool. It was good to see the 5-star freshman get involved on a play like that, being there doing big stuff. So overall, really exciting. I was happy with the effort we put up in that first game. It's Arkansas State. You kind of expect to win. That said, it's hard to get a shutout in today's version of college football. So definitely encouraging to see just some of the pieces falling into place there. I liked it. I was really happy with it.
Yeah, I agree with you. Jaquaize Petaway, he's something that shows how talented he is he's a late enrollee. Gavin Sawchuk last season was a late enrollee. He finished out his last high school year in May, and then he joined OU for the summer camp. And we saw what that meant for him. He got like a couple carries against TCU and didn't touch the ball again until the Cheez-It Bowl. He didn't know the offense well enough to be out there. Jaquaize Petaway, same thing. He late enrollee, finished out his last year of high school in May, then joined in summer camp, and he got reps in the first half with Dillon Gabriel. I mean, it could just be because we were playing Missouri State, but I'm looking at that and I'm seeing a potential really good starter. And I tell you one
Arkansas
other
State.
receiver. Yeah, what did I say? Missouri State?
Yeah. You're good.
Arkansas State. One other player on the offense that stuck out to me, and it's hard not to, is big Jaden Gibson. He's a redshirt freshman, and last season I was really nervous about him because he got in on a couple first half drives early in the season and he couldn't catch the ball. I remember there was one big third down against TCU when it was still close and Dillon Gabriel was in there, and he hit Jaden Gibson in the hands. He just couldn't come up with it. This year in the spring game, there were a couple plays that Jaden Gibson should have caught the ball. He didn't. And I was worried about those hands, but those 2 catches he made are nothing to turn your nose to. And so he really had a solid game, and I'm looking forward to seeing how he progresses. And if you remember, he can fly. He was the one in the 2021 spring game, or the 2022 spring game, I mean, who had that 95-yard touchdown reception from Micah Bowens. And equally on the defense, someone who really stuck out to me was Justin Harrington. I wasn't expecting it. I thought Dasan McCullough would get the starting nod at Cheetah, and he still might. But Justin Harrington is a man out there. He is a man amongst boys out there on that field. He broke up passes. He made good secured tackling. He couldn't be stopped. He was just really doing a good job of blowing up plays. He and Kip Lewis too, who if I remember correctly, is also a redshirt freshman. Kip Lewis had the quiet effect on the defense. On the offense, I mean, against the offense, he was covering up the holes that caused tackles for losses. He was going up and shutting down lanes that resulted in no gains. He was making a very quiet effort, but an elite effort out there. And so They just they really did a good job. And I was going into the season, I was wondering how players like Jaden Gibson and Justin Harrington, Jaquez Pettaway, Kip Lewis, all them. I was wondering how they do against some of the Big 12 teams like Texas Tech and Baylor, who've really done well against us the past couple of years. But A, we're not playing either of those teams, and B, they don't look too good.
No, they don't. Baylor and Texas Tech being among two of the 4 Big 12 teams to lose on the first full weekend of college football. Texas Tech, of course, losing in double overtime to Wyoming. That was a thriller of a game for any of you that didn't watch. And Baylor dropping to Texas State. Not good. That's that's got to be a low point, I think, for the Baylor program. Dave Aranda is Dave Aranda in his 3rd year with Baylor.
This is his fourth. His first year was in 2020.
Okay, well, I don't know about you, but being a 4th year coach coming out of a national championship LSU program from 2019, I don't know how well the Baylor fans are going to hold this. I don't know how long they're going to be able to hold this if this is the direction that that program's going. We'll see
Especially with
where it
how he
goes.
won the Big 12 a couple years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, to go from that to losing to Texas State, it's it's
Not good.
kind of shocking. West Virginia's loss, at least it's to a top 10 Penn State team at Penn State. You can find some reasons to make that a respectable loss there. TCU losing to Colorado. Is Dion better than we thought, or is TCU worse?
I think it's a mix of both. Deion Sanders coached a heck of a game. Travis Hunter should, without a doubt, be in the front running for the Heisman, and Shadir Sanders not too far behind him. I have Travis Hunter ahead of him because he played like 130 or 145 snaps. He had over 100 receiving yards. He had a few tackles. He had a very important interception in the red zone. I mean, he just had a heck of a game. But also, TCU lost Max Duggan, lost Garrett Riley, who he's a whole other thing that we won't really talk about. They lost their best receivers. They lost their best defensive backs. They lost everything that made them good last year. And seeing the lackadaisical defensive effort from TCU, it was laughable how bad they looked defensively. So I think we'll get a better idea as to how good Colorado is this week when they play Nebraska. I'm not ready. If I were voting on a top 25 poll, I wouldn't be ready to put them in the top 25, but they'd be just outside of it. We'll see how they do against Nebraska, but I think it's a mix of both. Colorado's better than I expected. TCU is worse than I expected.
That's fair. That's fair. You know, I'm kind of with you there. It's got to be a little mix of both. I think if I was going to pinpoint one of them though, and if I'm going to come down on one side of this fence, I don't think TCU is as good as we thought they were. And granted, I mean, I said on here a couple weeks ago they lost more production from their team from last year than any other team in the conference. So it's to be expected. There's a talent drop off there. I just don't think I realized the extent to which it would really that it would really
Mhm.
pop. So something to see there. Definitely something to monitor. I don't see Colorado winning the Pac-12 when all is said and done this year. They've got some other stuff to run through. A strong Oregon State team now led by DJ Uiagalelei, former Clemson quarterback. Clemson, not a good weekend for them either.
No.
Pretty bad. But back to Texas Tech. You remember a couple weeks ago, maybe last week, I said on here that Texas Tech and Kansas State were two of the teams to watch out for
I agreed with you.
OU in the Big 12 title race. It's week 1. You don't want to overreact off of the first week of games. Team can come out flat and put together a good rest of the season. But suffice it to say, by 11:30 p.m. last Saturday, I was um, second guessing my
Yeah,
choice to
same
put
here.
Texas Tech in that list of contenders. But
Same here.
looking ahead, we got SMU coming up this week. I want us to talk here a little bit about what our offense and our defense should be on the lookout for. I think from the defensive side, we've got to just not give up the big play, right? Looking back to their game last week, looking back to SMU's game against Louisiana Tech last week, so much of their success was off of big plays.
Without a
First and
doubt.
Louisiana Tech punts and pins SMU at their own 8-yard line. That's followed up by a 67-yard run that puts SMU quickly on the other side of the field, gets them there. We had a 67-yard touchdown pass that was their first score of the game. Some field goals and other touchdowns that were set up by big plays. 43-yard passes, 20-something, 12-something yard runs. OU's just gotta play smart defensively. It's not to say be silly and just go prevent defense mode, but it's to say keep track of your men, like you mentioned earlier, control the line of scrimmage. So limit the run game where you can, and let's get some pressure on the quarterback. Last week there was a lot of max protect stuff. Still, we were able to get in there, force the quarterback to get rid of the ball quickly. I liked what I saw from the defensive line, but if I'm picking one thing where we've got to say this can't happen, we cannot give up the big plays. If we give up the big plays, our defense is going to be in for a long day, and the offense is going to
Without a
have to
doubt.
work extra hard. So that's what I'm looking for. If you're looking to the offense, what does our offense need to do to find success in this game?
They need to control the line. It all comes down to that. They need to control the line. Do you remember who our defensive line coach was a couple years ago under the Riley regime?
Is it Calvin Thibodeau?
Calvin Thibodeau. You know who the defensive line coach is for SMU?
Calvin Thibodeau.
Calvin Thibodeau. You got it. Do you remember Corey Roberson,
I do.
our former defensive tackle? He had a pick six for SMU.
Man.
Had a 16-yard pick six. He's one of their defensive linemen. He went with Thibodeau to them. So we're going to need to control the line. We know Thibodeau establishes a strong defensive line. Even in our worst years of defense, we had a solid line. I mean, there was one year, 2020, that entire defensive line ended up in the NFL. Nick Bonitto, Isaiah Thomas, Ronnie Perkins, Perrion Winfrey, all of them ended up in the NFL. And that's nothing to act like it didn't happen, considering how well they were developed. And they have a strong defensive line. It's something where they can and will bully an offensive line. What we need to do is we need to control the line. We need to be able to just smack their defensive line in the mouth and say, yeah, I'm going to run it for 6 yards a carry. What are you going to do about it? We need to be able to break off those big runs like we saw Eric Gray get last year. Gavin Sawchuk is expected to play again this coming week. He was injured last week against Arkansas State. They didn't want to risk anything, so they sat him. But now that we're going up against SMU, this is a higher caliber opponent. We need players like Gavin Sawchuk in there getting 15, 20, 30-yard runs every now and then. I'm not unrealistic. I know that you can't get those every play. I know that you can only really get a couple of those per game, but I mean, look at what Eric Gray did last year with a bad offense. Our offense is arguably a lot better this year than they were last year. I mean, last year we had 7 receivers catch a pass in the opening game. This year, we had 10 different receivers catch a pass in the opening game. This year, we have more talent on the offense. We have a better offensive line. We have better receivers. We have more receivers. Last year, it was Marvin Mims, Drake Stoops, Jalil Farouk, Braden Willis. Everyone else didn't really get too much time because those were the guys. That was it. And this year we have Nick Anderson. We have Jaden Gibson. We have Jaquez Petaway. We have Gavin Freeman, who's now in a starting role. We really have a chance to make this a special offense, and we know we're going to hit shots down the field. If there's one thing we've learned about Dylan Gabriel, it's that he's going to take a lot of shots and he's going to connect on some of them, especially with Andrell Anthony in there. The speedster, he flies, and we know he's going to make the
He
catches.
was
We know he's going to get
fast.
downfield. Boy, he is really speedy. I went back and watched that deep ball that he caught on the opening drive. 5 yards past the line of scrimmage, he was already behind the defense back. But we know we're going to have success there, but we can't make it to where that's our only success. We need to show that we can go up against a really good defensive line and control the line, where we're giving Gabriel plenty of time to throw and we are running the ball to our heart's content. That's what we need to control their defense. We need our offense to control the trenches.
I'm with you. I'm with you 100% there. Winning starts and ends with the defense, with the line of scrimmage. And, a lot of where we've lost that battle is the defensive line in previous seasons. But things are looking promising this season. I've got OU pulling this one out by 4 scores on Saturday, 41-13. Both teams nailing a couple field goals down there. It happens. You're going to have some possessions that don't work out perfectly. So that's where I've got us going. What's your score prediction, Chris?
By my math, we have both teams scoring the same amount of times. It's just the way that they're getting those scores are different. You have a touchdown and 2 field goals for SMU. I have 3 touchdowns. You have 5 touchdowns and you have 5 touchdowns and 2 field goals for OU. I have 6 touchdowns and 1 field goal. I think OU wins at 45-21. I think this is going to be our first big test for the defense. I'm hoping I'm wrong about how many points we give up, but I think we are going up against an offense that is very opportunistic. They have a quarterback who's not afraid to put the issue on the wide receiver, just throw up a pass and hope that they catch it. They have a running back who averaged, let me make sure I get this number right here. They have a running back who averaged 9.1 yards per carry, 14 carries for 128 yards. That's nothing to ignore.
Mm-mm.
If they can put up those types of numbers, then they are going to be a problem. And we're more than likely going to give up a score or two to SMU. We need to limit it. We need to be able to win by at least double what they score. If you ask me for me to believe that we are really better than we were last year. But I think at the end of the day, our offense will play well enough, and our defense, while giving up the occasional score, will have a good performance. Final score, 45-21 OU.
Nice. That's a solid prediction. Chris, what's on your game day menu this weekend?
Game day menu this weekend. Well, I'm thinking about doing some barbecue. Thinking about maybe some ribs. Might look for a good hot dog, or if I'm feeling it, I might go away from barbecue, because there's nothing wrong with some good Italian food. I love me some spaghetti. What are you eating this weekend?
Not spaghetti on a game day. I'll tell you that. I don't. I go full American style food for game day. Looking for some burgers,
tenders.
some French onion dip and chips, maybe some pigs in a blanket.
Those all sound good.
Yeah, none of that's spaghetti. You're not going to see me eating spaghetti on a game day.
Real quick before we go, Alabama versus Texas this weekend. Who you got?
Alabama by at least 3 scores. I think Texas keeps it close in the first quarter. Last year Alabama didn't have a ton of tape on Quinn Ewers, and this year, they've played him once, obviously. Going into this year, they've got the tape. They're in Tuscaloosa. Again, I see Texas putting up a challenge in that first quarter. Past the first quarter, not much of a game. Alabama pulls out by at least 3 scores.
Yeah, Quinn Ewers, he threw like 57% last year, and he struggled against Rice. At the end of the day, his statistics were nice, but he struggled against Rice. He struggled against food. He did not look good against food. And so going up against a team with as much five-star talent as Alabama has on their defense, they might put together like two really nice first quarter drives. I think by the fourth quarter, Alabama's going to have their marching band out on the field taking snaps.
Well, you may be right. You may be right. We'll see. But definitely some good stuff to look forward to. This is Sam and Chris for the Crimson Creed podcast. Make sure to check out Chris's blog, Sooner Pocket, and we'll look forward to talking to you next week. Hopefully, coming off of a victory over SMU here in Norman. For Chris, I'm Sam, and have a good weekend. Boomer Sooner.
Boomer Sooner.